Joining me live now is the Defence and Security Analyst and former Director General of the Royal United Services Institute, Professor Michael Clarke. Michael, thanks for your time this morning. So do you believe that China is supplying Russia with arms?
Not at the moment, no. But it is entirely plausible from what we've heard that they may be asked to, and that's what they're going to have to decide fairly soon, whether they will or not.
What sort of equipment do you think Russia would ask China for?
Well, we don't know, but most analysts think it will almost certainly is precision weapons, because that's what the Russians are short of. I mean, 90% of their weapon stocks are dumb bombs, dumb weapon systems. Only 10% of them are what you'd call smart weapons, and they've used a lot of those already.
Yeah.
Also, they're quite short on drones. The Russians have put a lot of effort into aircraft. They've got a very good suite of modern, very effective aircraft, but not so many drones. So the guess is that it's probably precision weapons and drones, which the Chinese do have lots of, and which I think the Russians would feel will make the difference in actually being able to step up their offensive in Ukraine. Because one of the reasons the Russian offensive is running out of steam is that they're running out of precision weapons to use.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. I mean, how much of that has just been taken out? How much of the heavy artillery has been taken out by Ukrainian fighting forces?
Well, the Russians have lost about 1,200 pieces of serious equipment. That's their main battle tanks, armoured personnel carriers, multiple launch rocket systems, and so on. So they've lost about 1,200. The Ukrainians have lost about 350 similar pieces. So it's about 3-1, something like that. What's most interesting about those figures, and those are the things that can be definitely verified by photographic evidence. So the real numbers will be higher, but we're certain that about 1,200 pieces, there's photographic evidence. You can look at it. Anybody can go online and see it, check it out themselves. So we're certain about that. But what's interesting, I've been doing some working out on the amount of that stuff that's been abandoned and captured. And about almost 60% of Russian losses are because equipment's been captured or abandoned. Now, you shouldn't expect that. For a side that's attacking, a side going forward, you expect to lose equipment, you expect to have things destroyed. But if things are abandoned or captured, it usually means that either they are unserviceable and that they weren't properly maintained, or they've had to be abandoned because the Ukrainians have conducted some very effective counterattacks. That's the clear idea.
Michael, in your view, who's winning the war?
I'd say it's 50-50 at the moment. When this started, we all said this is all a question of how slowly the Ukrainians can lose, what a price they can put on the defeat that they will suffer at some point. And that still may be the case. But at the moment, the Russians have got 3 lines of attack, one around Kiev, one in the east of the country, trying to join up their forces from the north and the south to encircle Ukrainian forces, and the third one pushing west to Odessa. And at the moment, they are stalled in all 3 areas. And when it comes to, I don't think they'll take Odessa, not for a long time. I don't think they will join up fully between north and south, because if they do, they've got to take Dnipro, which is a very strong city. And the mayor of Dnipro, a man called Lukachuk, has said, I'll turn this into another Stalingrad. They're all saying that. And I think they'll have trouble moving in on Kiev unless they just want to flatten one of the jewels in the crown of Slavic civilization, which they might, but that's what they'll be doing. So I think that the Russians are finding that they're grinding to a halt, and they can keep leveling Ukrainian cities and even Kiev. But every time they do, they lose politically. And if the Ukrainians just stay alive, if they keep going, if they live to fight another day, I suspect that they will win politically, because ultimately, in my view, Xi Jinping will come in and he'll say to Putin, that's it, stop, you cannot continue. And it will be China who will stop this war.
Sorry to interrupt you. That is precisely the point I wanted to ask you about. You know, does China really want to get involved with this? Because we've already seen these threats overnight from the US warning China if it does get involved, then it could well face similar sanctions.
Yeah, I mean, China doesn't want to get involved in this war, but it is already, because this war is doing a lot of damage to the world economy, and that's hurting China. It's hurting China's post-COVID growth. Putin is emerging as another Kim Jong-un, and he'll be a China-North Korea problem on a bigger scale, an ally who's a real nuisance, who they still have to support, and they fear that quite a lot. And remember that Xi Jinping is looking forward to his 20th Party Congress in the autumn, where he will get his 3rd term. He'll lay out the future of China for the next decade or more, and this is going to spoil it for him. And so there's a lot of reasons why Xi Jinping feels he has to help Putin. He feels it's quite helpful that Putin is pushing NATO back or trying to, that he's taking on the Americans. He feels that if the Russians can actually fight an anti-American war for him, that's all to the good. However, he's getting pulled into it himself. And the more brutal this war becomes, and believe me, it's going to get very brutal in the next 10 days or 2 weeks, the more China is complicit with it, and the more world opinion will look at Beijing and say, why are you continuing to shield this man, Putin, in the United Nations, and even supply him with weapons? It'll be a difficult call. I think we don't know which way Xi Jinping's going on this, but there's general agreement that he's at a decision point in the next week or two. How far does he stick with Putin, or how far does he say the damage to me, China, or to my China is so great that I can't allow this to continue?
Fascinating stuff. Michael Clarke, really appreciate your insight this morning. Thanks so much for joining us. Talk to you soon.